In 1970, when Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau said, "Just watch me," he was of course referring to the drastic actions he'd be willing to take to restore civil liberties during the October crisis. At the time, I took his request quite literally, broke into 24 Sussex Drive with a hammer, and watched him make love to his beautiful wife Margaret. That was the night our current Prime Minister was conceived.
So almost 153 years ago to the day, Canada was confederated. Basically, it was just Sir John A. Macdonald, Paul Schaefer, Brian Mulroney, Jacques Cartier. Oh, and I think LeVar Ball was there, straight up just chilling in this room, trying to convince Leif Erikson to give up his ownership of the Hudson Bay Company. Leif Erikson was this like Viking dude from Russia, I think. And he like founded the Hudson's Bay Company or whatever. After spending a grueling 20 minutes trying to convince Leif Erikson to give up his share of the Hudson's Bay Company, Fathers of Confederation really had grown to respect him. So what they did was they tied him up, they strapped him to a boat, pushed that boat out into the St. Lawrence River, and then launched a volley of flaming arrows, and every single one of them scorched his live back. And that was how you really know that they had come to terms. The next really tough thing was that they had to convince all of the various woodland animals that were calling Canada home. Because the beavers, they didn't really think that an economic union based on the Canadian Pacific Railway was really right for them yet. It didn't really change their forest stocks. So first they had to convince all the beavers. And once you have to convince all the beavers, the Canada goose think they're getting left out, and all of these animals, it was a real Noah's Ark situation that they had to really square up. And then, that's how Canada came to be.
In 1955, the province of Quebec voted whether or not to separate from the country of Canada, with the Federalists winning in a razor-thin victory. What most people don't know is that the Separatists actually won, but no one was able to pry Quebec off of Canada's teat, so they just kept letting it suckle.
In 1984, the Canadian government made a truly remarkable decision, passing legislation that made Walter Gretzky the literal father of every Canadian citizen.
In 1957, Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson won the Nobel Peace Prize for his terrific airport maintenance. In 1917, an explosion in Halifax killed 2,000 people.
In 1993, Kim Campbell made a huge leap for Canada and for all women in the developed world by becoming the first woman in Canadian history to inherit what political scientists refer to as a dumpster fire, from outgoing Prime Minister Brian Dumpster Fire Mulroney.
1999 was a big year in Canadian history. It was the year none of it became a territory, and it was also the year my idiot son became a burden to me by being born.
An absolutely seminal event in the history of Canada, really coming to terms with itself as a nation, developing a sense of national identity, national consciousness, would have to be the Battle of Vimy Ridge.
Basically, us and the Brits were knuckle-deep in German-occupied France, looking SOL, when the Canadian Corps realized that their boy Tristan lived nearby, went over to his pad, did a bunch of morphine, came back, and kicked ass.
The thing was, nobody could really beat the Germans on Vimy Ridge the way that the Canadians were able to, under the supreme direction of General Currie, who then went on to invent the curry.